to Corinne's Picks. My name is Corinne Basabe. It's a show about art and remarkable careers of artists. And I have with me my co-host for this evening, Daniel, Daniel Lanzilotta. Daniel is someone that is very special to me because he was once a guest on this show and he became a host. And he's been hosting, I think it's the last 6 or 8 episodes.
About eight shows.
And so this show was really to talk a little bit more about his art and who he is, but also to introduce something really big that he has in the works.
Are we speaking to the Artivation TV that you're the executive producer of?
Absolutely. We're going to be, the show is having a baby.
Your show is having a baby, that's right.
Okay. So, let's talk to
That's a nice way to put it. I like that.
Absolutely. The show is giving birth. It's pregnant.
It's split off and it's now become this other new thing. It's fantastic.
Exactly.
I love that you chose me, and I'm so pleased to be part of this. And I've been on several different shows at BronxNet over the years, and so I know a bunch of folks, and I've always had a great love for this place.
And now you're going to be hosting a show in BronxNet.
Yes, it's very exciting, and finding guests and then vetting them out and then interviewing, because I do a lot of pre-interviewing with people, and sometimes it's up to like 2 hours of talking to them on the phone, going for coffee with them. I'm doing that now with someone, and it's just to get another vibe from them to see. And then I had a little weird experience with somebody who I met at the UN during Climate Week. And then I thought I bumped into them at another event at the New School, and it was I didn't know who I was talking to. It was very strange. But I'm glad I had the opportunity to talk to them on the phone and try to understand and get clarity, because I don't want to just have people on that say they're this, and then you get them on the set, and it's like, whoa, that's not what I had in mind. And so it's nice to vet them out beforehand, get to know them, have conversation, do some background check, go to their Instagram page, go to their Facebook page, Google the name, see what they're about. And so you have information, and you can have a better dialogue with people and get to know what they're about. That's really what I'm looking for, to see how this all will, unfold and become bigger than what I hope it to be.
But it's really interesting because when you host this show, you do take it in a very unique direction, because I interview artists just for art's sake, but the artists that you've selected really do have a special purpose with the art. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, the premise of the show is, the name of the show is called Artivation TV, Artist, Art, and Activism. And so I believe inherently artists are activists, like it or not. But some artists take it to, they're actively out there with the cause, with the mission, with the vision, and the art has to speak for itself. So if you say you're an activist, but your art is not speaking, I'm not really too interested. But if your art speaks by itself as a form of activism, like Larry Morse did with Black Men Reading, I've known Larry a couple of years now, and when I saw his paintings, Black Men Reading, I was like, wow, these are incredible. They're just amazing paintings. And I was like, this is activism. So I said to him at an event I saw him at, I said, Larry, are you an activist? And he was like, nah, not really. I said, but the paintings are. And that, to me, was so powerful to see those paintings as they are just by themselves. Each and every single one of those paintings speaks to me in a very big way. And when I went and we had coffee for about an hour and a half, and we spoke about all of this, and then he realized that these were paintings about activism and how powerful they are. And so that made him very happy. So that was part of the whole program of bringing people together, exposing ideas, sharing a vision. But the art really has to have a signature, and it has to have a voice, and it has to stand on its own outside of the artist. But they have to be, they have to be intertwined with each other, of course. So it's been really great because a lot of folks so far have been putting it out there. So when they get their link from the show, they get very excited. And then what I do afterwards, as time goes by, I keep reposting their stuff. And for instance, Larry had an opening. I kept reposting his stuff. And then with Air Cargo Caravan, she went to Amsterdam to do a show. I started posting her stuff. I don't tell anybody. I'm just doing it in the background. And the interesting thing about it, it actually comes back to you through social media. So Airco went to Amsterdam, and then she's posting something, and then all of a sudden I'm getting all these messages from Amsterdam, and I'm like, I don't know these people. Then I realize what's happening, and that's the power of this thing. This could snowball to a very gigantic worldwide form of activism. So this is my activism. So this is my voice to give voice to folks who may not otherwise be able to go out there and voice what they're doing. So this is a very powerful platform, and it's BronxNet, and people, they look at me. I go, no, you don't understand how this all works. When you take that link and you start posting it properly, then you'll get feedback, and people will see this, and that's the power of this platform.
Well, I would argue that your art is a little bit more than just reposting other people's work, because you are pretty much a foundational member of the environmental movement in New York City. I mean, your art is primarily made of discarded materials. Some people would call it garbage.
That's true. That's a compliment to me.
And you
Thank
have
you.
a real footprint in that movement. So tell us a little bit about your art. Let's see a piece of your art first, at least one image, so people know what we're talking about. The mask.
The mask. The mask is a very powerful piece that won the Creative Climate Award through the Human Impact Institute's show in 2024. That was all about climate change, and the mask we wear, essentially about, is it a hoax? Is it real? Is climate real? How does climate change affect frontline communities, Black and brown communities? And so this piece was made over many, many, many years, but it wasn't the mask yet. So when I work with my materials, which are all found in the street or a river or from the ocean or a beach, I sit somewhere and I make the pieces. And on the mask, on the side of the mask where you see the orange parts, those were made like 16 years ago. Me sitting in my bedroom making pieces, and they sat in a box literally for all those years. I had no idea what I was going to do with them. And then COVID came around, and I was walking through the far side, east side of Canal Street, and the black structure of the mask was just this flat thing on the street. And I just went over to it, and I was like, ooh, that's weird, I like it. And I picked it up, I liked the feel of the plastic. I thought it was a bicycle part, like from some kind of seat at first, but I gave it the curve by heating it and forming it on a form. And then the eyes are captivating. They're crazy. I was living up on 140 at the Malcolm X Boulevard at the Savoy, and I was coming down, and I was at 125th Street and Malcolm X, and there was a very large teddy bear in the trash with its head down. When I have to go over, I have to go inspect it. And so I go over and I take the teddy bear out, because now you could see me on 125th Street with this big teddy bear. So I looked at the eyes and I was like, wow, those are crazy. So I had to have them. So I had to do, yes, I had to remove the eyes from the teddy bear. And I saved them, and they go on my pile of eyes. I have a pile of eyes from toys. And I was like, wow, these are crazy. And then this thing was sitting on the wall, the black part, the flat black part, and I was like, I guess I'm making a mask. So I put the eyes on, and once I put the eyes on, the structure of it, it just exploded with the motion, this thing. And so I went and I started collecting all my pieces, and I did it's an assembly, really. And I think of these pieces of work more as totems of another time of my ancestors. So I come from a bunch of different ethnic backgrounds, different cultures, and the work that I do is really being in touch with those ancestors that come through me. And my
Which
work,
are the ancestors are?
well, they're well, through Sicily and Italy. I'm Egyptian, Palestinian, Yemenite, and Jordanian with a little Greek. It's just the whole Levant of the arc of the Mediterranean. So I indulge all those cultures. I love all these cultures. I love being a diverse human being. It's rich. It's just opens a world of like the whole world is open to me, and I also happen to be a chef. And so food and flavors, so my entire life is based around flavors. I see people as flavors. And if you want to go through life not experiencing life in its fullness and avoid flavors and experiencing other human beings, I can't do that. That's why this city means so much to me, growing up here in the Bronx and being part of this city in the way I have been. It's just flavors. It's everywhere you turn, another person, another color, another religion, another language. Those are all just magnificent things to me. Music, I mean, come on. It just never ends.
So we have 2 minutes till our break, but I want to show just one more because sometimes we talk a lot and don't get to see all the images. So I just want to see another image of your work. Tell us about this one.
That's a very powerful one. That's the... It's a ceremonial necklace, a pectoral necklace. It's the yoni. It's the feminine energy with a very feminine symbol, and it's just again, it's more of a totem of something that's there. It's a celebration of the femininity of the planet Earth. So I wanted to pay homage to that. That's all my work is around themes of spiritual life, agriculture, food, social distress, as the crack tower, using crack cocaine vials found mostly in Harlem and the Bronx. And so I'm making pieces that otherwise would have been made by my ancestors as ceremonial pieces. And so I see these pieces as I'm a modern day type of shaman in a sense, that I use these pieces of work that are coming through me, that these are awakening my spirits, because every single item has their own spiritual energy. Plastic is not dead. Most people would say that plastic has no life in it, and that's just not the case at all.
I think it's really interesting. Well, I know we're going to go for a break now, but when we come back, we'll talk some more about your process.
Yeah.
welcome back to Corinne's Picks. I'm your host, Corinne Basabe. It's my co-host, Daniel Lanzilotta. We've been talking about his new show, Artivation.
Artivation TV.
And we've been talking about his background as an environmentalist that focuses on art.
And using art, with all the things that I go to many, many climate change events, and all the way from Harvard, NYU, the New School, they're endless, Climate Reality. A lot of these organizations really don't incorporate art in the way I think they should. And that's a little bit disheartening to me, because art is the great communicator. And artists need to really get on board with what's happening and try to address the issues at hand through the artwork, addressing climate. A lot of it is just people who are trying to start corporations and businesses to sequester carbon. And that's all very important too, of course. But there's a whole realm of the art world that needs to get on board to start voicing solutions to the problem, getting people aware of the problems. It's not a hoax, and we're in trouble.
I was really struck by one of the artists that you invited on the show, Jolly, which talked about, not having to buy art supplies, but just using materials that's already there,
yes.
found objects. And that struck me because, I go to the art store, I go to the hardware store, but it never occurred to me to make art out of anything.
That's what this is. They're during this process of this is going into my 29th year of making this stuff. So my journey has come down to two types of art at this point in time because of the crisis of climate and fossil fuels and illness and whatever, all the other things that are ancillary to the issues that are at hand. So you have art that is made from supplies that are bought in an art supply store, most likely made from fossil fuels, crude oil. And then there are artists who are going out and finding their materials on the street, and I call that non-extractive art. So there's extractive art and non-extractive art. And all the years that I've been doing this, which is many, many years now, I have barely paid any out-of-pocket money to make the art. It's always coming at me. The supply chain of plastic is people and their waste. So I call that post-human consumption, trash, garbage, detritus, whatever. And so my supply chain is constant. I don't pay for anything.
And I think it's really interesting because a lot of your work is pretty intricate. A lot of pendants, jewelry, necklaces. And we assume that those are beads that you bought. And what was interesting is that you actually painstakingly make those beads yourself.
I'm into 50,000 beads at the moment.
So you might take a bottle cap and actually take an instrument to just snip that round section.
Right. So that's a whole science behind that. That's the Gestalt principles of design from Gestalt psychology. And so when you look at an object like this cup, for instance, if I tore the cup apart, is it still a cup? Right? That's the question. So when I look at this art, when I look at the mask, for instance, all the orange pieces on the side, that's a Home Depot bucket. Is it still a Home Depot bucket? No. But it rendered this artwork. So that's 100% made from post-human consumption, every inch of it. And so what you don't see in the photo here is that dangling below this piece are about 3,000, 4,000 handmade beads, which is a lot of beads. And I find a lot of toys. And then I don't just use anything I find as is. I take it and then I break it down into other parts, and then I manipulate it, and then I reassemble it. So because the orange parts were made 15, 16 years ago, this piece essentially took 16 years to make in reality. But of course, that's not really the case because the pieces are sitting all over the place. And then one day I go, oh, I think I can make something. And so I'm doing that right now with a piece. Someone gave me a bicycle helmet, plastic helmet, and then I found these square tubes from a plastic shelf unit. And this stuff sits around forever. And then I looked at this bicycle helmet. It's just a bicycle helmet that you see everyone riding around with, the safety helmet. And I saw these plastic tube things, and I was like, they should never know each other. These pieces are completely diametrically opposed somewhere. They're just coming from two different universes. And so I looked at them, and I'm like, no, I just saw this animal. And then I started it. In fact, right before I came to the studio today, I was cleaning up all the pieces, as it's just in the beginning stages, the very, very, very beginning of a sculpture. And somewhere in my brain, there's a symbol of Sicily called, let me see if I know it, Triana Cria. It's the symbol of Sicily with 3 legs and the shape of a triangle. And I looked at this piece and I was like, that's what this piece is. It's something from my subconscious mind of Sicily. And of the symbol of Sicily, it's on their flag, this symbol. And I thought that will also be the logo of Artivation TV.
Oh, wow.
And so the face of this symbol is Medusa. Mm-hmm. And this is like Medusa. And so I was like, God, that's amazing. That's all subconscious stuff. And so like I have my logo now for the show, but it took this process to go through the whole thing of making the sculpture and then looking at it and like just leaving it alone. And I'm really taking my time with this piece. It's like,
Okay, so I want to show some more pieces before we
yes,
end.
of course.
We have 3 more images. What about this one? Tell us a little bit about this one.
This piece is a tribute to Black women. It's called Eve, and it's dedicated to all Black women. It's based on the Eve mitochondria gene of the origins of humanity. That's made from I think it's one black bucket I found on Washington Street off of Fulton in Brooklyn, in front of a church. It was an ice melt bucket with the stuff that you throw on ice. And I saw this black bucket, and I loved the plastic, and I carried it with me wherever I went until I got home.
So what does the red symbolize?
That's blood.
A menstruation?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And are the links, are those dreadlocks or braids?
There's about 1,000 handmade beads there.
Okay.
That each strand is a bead.
And is it woven like behind the red button? Is that woven?
That's a plastic toy that's been manipulated with heat and then mounted on this metal square. That's in a show now up in Bridgeport, Connecticut at City Lights Gallery called Becoming Plastic. There's a lot of handmade beads there, and it's all strung together and held together with broom bristles.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's interesting. Can we see another image, please?
That's that's just a brooch. I never gave it a real name. I used to wear this. It's big. And when I was living in Harlem, I would go to a bar on the corner of 126, the social club. I forget the name of it. It's still there. And I would wear this, and it was very interesting to wear that piece because people are highly attracted to it. And I was talking to this woman, and she goes, "Can I wear it?" And I said, "Of course." I took it off. I put it on her, and then she just disappeared. And someone said, "Oh, are you?" I said, "No, she'll be back." But she just went away, and she came back maybe half an hour later or so. But she had the enjoyment of wearing this piece, and I was very good with that. And so it's been a very successful piece. That's also in the show in Bridgeport.
And these brooches do start conversations because
Yes, they do.
People don't believe that it's garbage. That it's made from garbage.
Right. I've had that experience a couple of times. I was wearing one in Brooklyn at a little outdoor party years ago. And this woman came, it was like, looked like turquoise. This woman came over to me, she said, I just came back from Mexico. That turquoise is stunning. And I said, it's a Febreze cap from the air freshener. And she said, what? And I said, no, it's all plastic. That's how captivating the pieces are. And that's how I met you. I mean,
Exactly.
right?
It was a brooch.
Right.
A brooch started a conversation.
This brooch.
Was it that one?
Yeah, it was
Oh,
this
wow.
brooch. Yeah.
I remember it was really large. It was large and
I
round.
might have had another one on, but I
Yeah.
was wearing that that day as
okay.
well. Yeah.
Can we see that last image?
Yeah, that one is. That's called American History: The Middle Passage, and it's made also from a lot of plastic debris. I forget how many beads are there. The triangle is made from mahogany wood, and that is also reclaimed, repurposed. That was the front deck of a house I was working on. I was rebuilding the front deck of a friend of mine's house of rotten mahogany, tongue and groove pieces of lumber. And I kept a lot of the lumber that was still in pretty good condition, except for some of it that was rotted. And I kept it on the side of her house. I knew I was going to use it. I didn't know when or where. And when I started to develop this piece, that wood is the ships of the Middle Passage. And I didn't want to make it heavy and depressing, but I wanted to pay homage to those folks who were thrown overboard in the Atlantic Ocean. And that's the piece, and that the bigger black triangle is the case it comes in.
Okay, so we have 1 minute. Any final words about, I guess, the baby that's being born, our baby?
Artivation TV is for artists to get in touch with me at artivationtv@gmail.com. I have an email address, or find me on Instagram or Facebook, and to reach out. It's about activism in the arts. And send me your work. Send me an example of the work, and let's have a conversation and snowball this thing, because the artists, as you know, are always been in the forefront of change, and we have to continue that, even though our voices are being squelched.
Well, onward and upward, and tune into Artivation when we come out.
I'ma show you how to party.